Welcome to episode 7 of the Motion Artist Collective podcast. We're taking it virtual this week and we're chatting to Adam K Batchelor, who's a writer-director, and he's just released his debut short film, Satori. If you haven't seen it yet, head over to Dust on YouTube and check it out. We talk a lot about what went into the production, and we talk a lot about the filming, which took place a couple of years ago. We extensively look into the post-production process because there's a lot of VFX within the film. And I was just happy to play a part in it. And thank you to Adam. I hope you all enjoy it, and I hope you all enjoy this podcast. Thanks for watching. So, Adam, welcome to the Motion Artist Collective podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Mate, it's a pleasure.
I'm a fan, been watching. I've been tuning in.
Thanks. You're one of about 23, I think. So fingers crossed things pick up a bit. I've been meaning to do more of these, to be fair, but just haven't got around to it since lockdown. Plus, to be honest, although it's easier to like meet people like you who obviously live down London way, I do find that having someone next to you chatting is like, I don't think you can replace that really.
Yeah, no, of course.
But so just for everyone who might be first tuning in or doesn't know you, can you introduce yourself and just tell us sort of like what your background is, please, Adam?
Yeah, sure. I mean, my name Adam K Batchelor. I'm now, I guess with the release of this film, a writer-director. My day job, I work as a director-producer for a creative agency. But outside of work, I've been working as a cinematographer on short films, and then I worked on a feature film, low budget feature film. It was all with a friend of ours actually, a guy named Haz, DOP on 2 of his shorts, then on his first self-funded feature, which then went on to go onto Netflix. So that's kind of been what I've been doing outside of the day job, and that's what's been keeping me busy for the last couple of years.
So in terms of like when you were growing up, has this always been a passion of yours to sort of make films?
Yeah, growing up, grew up in the 80s. So as you'd expect, a boy growing up in the 80s, you're going to hear RoboCop, you're going to hear Terminator, Aliens, and all of those kind of films. And yeah, that is where my love for film kicked in. Do you know what? Actually, it was when it really kicked in, because a lot of kids love those kind of films, but I think where it really pushed further for me, I don't know how is this for you, late 90s cinema. I remember just constantly going to the cinema. I was just getting blown away all the time. There's like Fight Club, Saving Private Ryan, American Beauty, The Matrix. And then I think it was
The Matrix was like, I remember watching that and thinking like, this is like epic. Like this is like another level epic. Because there was so much stuff in there which you'd never seen before, like all the wire work and that you hadn't really. I think maybe in foreign films, but I hadn't really seen them. But like all the wire work and like the bullet cam and all that was just like mind blowing, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think for me personally, that was the last time I went to the cinema, and it was like, oh my God, I've never seen this before. How did they do it? And I just think since then, with how CGI has progressed, and they can throw anything on the screen now and nothing gives you that like, oh my God, I've never seen that before. Yeah. So I feel that maybe that was the last time I had that jaw drop feeling in this, especially with the bullet time shot. I think as well, because that moment is married to such a turning point in the film. It's like, is he the one and stuff like that? And then he pulls. So it's an amazing visual, but it's an amazing moment in the film. So that film is just a 10 out of 10, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. And wasn't it their first time directing? Wasn't it like their debut?
No, they've done a film called Bound. They were supposed to do Matrix first, but it's like, well, you haven't made a film. Went off and made a little independent film. Yeah. Quickly proved that they could do it, and then came back. It was amazing. Yeah,
it was an epic film. I actually bought that again on Blu-ray recently when I got my my little sort of home cinema, and nice. I just wanted to watch. I wanted to watch the tube train fight again, because that's just incredible as well. But yeah, so talk to me a bit about how you came to meet Haz, because like I first met Haz at an event at Edgbaston Cricket Ground, and he was giving a talk there about how he'd like get all of these like stock clips of like helicopters and stuff and like cut them out and comp them into these things. And I was like, man, this guy's a wizard.
Yeah.
And then obviously I like, didn't think anything of it then. And then I ended up on that like film for one day and sort of met him there more so. But how did you come to meet Haz?
You know what? It was a point where on my journey with filmmaking is that I got to a point where I knew I wanted to do it, but I just couldn't find, you know, obviously with filmmaking, you can't do this yourself. You have to find your team, your collaborators. And I was really struggling in that area. You know, you're meeting up with other people who want to direct, who, you know, cinematography and stuff like that. No one's is on that sci-fi same page as me. Everything was sort of gritty drama type thing, which is great, but it's just the ideas in my head were sort of big and fantastical, and I didn't go down the VFX route. So struggling a bit really. Like I tried to make short films which were not sci-fi, but it's not coming from the heart. I love my sci-fi, and then I just started saying yes to anyone who wanted to work on a film. Like when people find out, you've probably experienced this, when people find out that you own a camera and you own some lights and stuff like that, all of a sudden, you know, oh yeah, we've got this idea for a film. Can you help us? Can you help us? And then I'd read the script and be like, look, it's not my cup of tea, but I'm just going to do it. And I just started saying yes to everything, meeting actors, meeting other filmmakers. Then I met this guy another filmmaker named Colin Emerson, and he had shot Haz's very early stuff.
Yeah.
And he started telling me about Haz, and then we pressed play on a computer, sci-fi and spectacle and all of that. And I'm like, okay, so I want to meet this guy because this is the kind of stuff I want to make, but I have got no clue how to even begin making something like this. And then, like you said, you hear a couple of his talks and stuff like that. And he was at a stage where he was making films from minimal shooting. So his breakout short film was Project Kronos. And the only filming requirement for that was sat down talking head interviews with a white background. So, you know, couldn't be simpler. But gosh, what he done with just talking head interviews, like people pretending to be scientists. Then he takes all stock footage from NASA, which is free, you know, he augments it, and he creates this whole narrative of space travel and stuff like that. So impressive. Met him, helped him shoot a follow-up short film he was doing to that, and things were really taking off for him. And then we hit it off, and I think people had said to him, you know, what about a more regular film, cinematic language, you know, coverage, over the shoulders, you know, because these films at that point weren't really like that. So it was meeting him, and he's like, look, I do all that stuff. Let's combine my strengths with your strengths. And then we made the short film Sync. And then from there it progressed, and then he made a feature. So yeah, really, really hit it off early. Loved the same films, loved the same stuff. And we just got really excited about making stuff together. And it was learning on two of his short films and then his feature-length films. He really kept me in the loop. He really kept me in the loop of the entire writing process. He would send me the scripts and go backwards and forwards. Then he would really show me how he does things with visual effects. Then he's starting to have meetings in Hollywood, and he would sort of like let me know how all of that was going down. So he really sort of educated me a hell of a lot. And he's like, right, now go and make one of those short films that you've got in your head. And by that point, you know, I'm meeting you. I'm meeting, you know, the guy who done VFX on the other short. You're starting to meet these people.
Yeah.
And while you're on the film, you're starting to pitch. You're starting to pitch this idea you've got. And, you know, people are like, yeah, I'm up for it. And then you go from there, really.
It was funny on the Beyond because a friend of mine called Billy, who's the sound guy, I think he was like...
Billy Bannister.
Yeah. I love Billy. He's great. But he double booked himself or something. And he was like, have you got a bit of sound gear? I was like, well, yeah, because I've got like my own little shooting setup. He was like, can you go and boom up this sound record this film for me? I was like, mate, I was like, that's not I don't do that. He was like, oh, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. I was like, okay. So, I mean, like, it's one of those things when you do the job, you sort of know where the mic placement needs to go. I think I did a good job, but it was good to just come along. And I remember him saying, because I had the Ursa Mini, which you used on that, didn't you? And I had one on order, and Billy said, oh, yeah, they're using it. I was like, how have they got one? Because no one could get them. And obviously, I think
I think has managed to get like a pre-production.
Yeah,
pre-production.
He was like, nah. So I was like super excited to come along, one, to work on it, and two, to see that camera that I'd been waiting for so long.
I remember you had like a million questions about the camera. Like, can I have a go? I always forget that it's you doing sound is how I met you. I always forget that because always looking at your stuff online. Amazing stuff.
Yeah, since probably around that point, actually, I tried to focus more on like just focusing on a single discipline, because for a long time, just to make money, you sort of do a bit of everything, which is sort of why I ended up doing the same thing. But it was a good experience, man. It was good to come on board, obviously meet everyone, and sort of I was like, oh, I've seen like one of your talks ages ago, but it was good to just see like a good team, like everyone seemed to really like gel. I mean, I like I say, I was only there for a day, but everyone seemed to like, because it's low budget, everyone seemed to really like just do the best with what they'd got, and like obviously your talents and Haz's talents, and that made it amazing.
Yeah. Do you know what I will say about that time where we all worked on that kind of thing? What I was finding, and tell me your experience of this, is that I'd go to collaborate with people, and people would be very much like, no, you have to shoot it on the Alexa, you have to get all the kit and stuff like that, and it was all very, very limiting, I found. And then when I met Haz, the guy's just making great stuff out of nothing, out of stock footage, and so taking that attitude and just sort of like, look, we've got an Ursa Mini Pro, I've got some LED lights from China, we've got nothing, like we had nothing, and then we went, I made this feature-length film. But I loved that because I really hadn't come across that previously. Everything was too, it had to be of a bigger scale, otherwise it won't get taken seriously. And I love that, because I always thought, well, I don't think people really care. I think the filmmakers care about all the stuff like that. But when you put stuff online and people just watch it, if it's a good story, it's a good story. And,
I think the thing I noticed about being on set that one day is, like, especially when I've done short films before, a lot of people are still learning and sort of, trying to find their feet and make things. Whereas when I went on the Beyond, I thought that, like, Haz was sort of super laser focused. He knew exactly what he wanted all the time. And, I think that's just shows that he's super, he's got the idea proper, like, nailed down exactly how he wants it to come out, which I hadn't really seen before. There's always a bit of like, oh, we could do it like this, we could do it like that. And I don't know whether that was the case on other days, but like the days I was there, he sort of super knew what he wanted all the time, but which was good.
He's got a good producer mind as well as a director mind, I feel, with Haz, which was one thing I took, and moving forward onto Satori, the challenges of trying to film so much in such a small amount of time. You kind of reach that point where we can either get some amazing shots but not have enough footage to make the film, or we get the coverage to tell a story, and you've got to make those decisions on the fly.
So let's introduce Satori then. So it was released yesterday, which was the 11th of June. Just tell us about where it was released and sort of give us a brief synopsis of what it's about, and then we'll talk about how the concept all came about.
Yeah, sure. Well, we released it yesterday on Dust, the platform Dust. That was a very kind hookup from Haz. Haz has built a relationship with Dust, and Haz was the executive producer of the film. So he kindly introed, and I sent an almost finished version to them. They were super keen. So I had to wait a long time to get a slot, because I think with Dust you can get posted on Dust, but if you want it to be like a Dust exclusive, where they put a bit of marketing behind it, there's only a few slots available for that. So there was quite a long wait. I think late last year the film was ready, but the slot wasn't available till now. I was like, I've taken ages making this, I might as well just wait until the slot's available. So yeah, it went out on Dust yesterday. It's been great. It's been good to finally get it out here to the world,
Yeah, I was looking through the comments and like, mate, overwhelmingly quite positive, which is good. Yeah. You've always got to brace yourself, haven't you? You've always got
YouTube.
Something.
I was like, I don't even want to look at the YouTube comments, but I had a quick scan. I'm just like, okay, that's quite good actually.
Yeah, mate. I was like looking through. I was like, come on, man. Like, I know you do tend to gravitate towards the negative ones, but I was like, oh, God, it's like 90%, 95% good comments here. I was like, you got to be happy with that.
Relief. But yeah, it's nice. It's just good to get it on all these different platforms and just get it seen. But and then you read some what's nice is when you read a really nice comment and someone really got something that you were trying to say. And then I think with the negative comments, what is actually I'm taking as a positive is it's people not agreeing with what the film's about and stuff like that. So it's more sort of like, it's not well put together. Yeah. It's more sort of like the themes and stuff like that. Great. If you don't agree with that, great. I'd rather the film divide people and see a little bit of debate online. People arguing, no, actually, what he's trying to say is this. And it's like, that's good, actually. I'll take that negative sort of those negative comments in an argument over nothing. It wasn't well made at all.
It's like anything, isn't it? You've just got to try and like learn and grow and like take it on board and just like see how like next time you can improve, I suppose, isn't it? But
that's one thing that has been a revelation for me actually, is getting stuff online. You do learn a lot. You do learn a lot about what works with people, what doesn't work with people. To be honest, it just makes me excited to go out and make something else. It's really want to sort of take all of the notes on board, the good and bad, and just roll straight into the next one.
So what's it about for people who haven't seen it yet? Like, just give us a sort of a brief idea, and then hopefully they can go and check it out on Dust.
Sure. I mean, I'll tell you how the film came about.
Yeah.
So yeah, just at the time of working with the Beyond, I'm kind of like brainstorming ideas. Didn't have a firm idea in my head of what I wanted, but I had a few things. And what I found is it's just connected those things. I wanted to make something which was obviously 80s sci-fi inspired, because that's what I love. I love the jungle setting. Like, I love Predator. I love Rambo First Blood. I love those films which are in that setting, the atmosphere. So, and plus as well, when you've got no money, if you just go out and shoot in the streets, it can look very low budget very quickly. But I found a good location would give good production value. So I wanted that. I wanted to make something with a sort of commentary on the environment. And I also wanted to make a female lead, which was a bit more grounded and a bit more realistic. Not a sort of 20-something sexy girl who then sort of like kicks ass, takes a right hook from a man, gives one back, which essentially in Hollywood, it's always a male role where they cast a woman, so I wanted to, that was a goal of mine. I wanted to sort of show her strengths of sort of intuition and compassion and stuff like that have her win out in the end. So that was a goal of the story, but there's no film. Then I always had this image of something bursting through the ground and like people tripping on it and then looking back, so I had all these fragments and it was slowly sort of pulling it all together to find a storyline. It took a while to find, the story you're going to tell. And then as you find it, what I found is like, what is this ginormous movie? There's no short film here. So then it took me quite a long time to whittle this big post-apocalyptic. Yeah, and that was nothing. I wanted to create a post-apocalyptic world where instead of the world being screwed in like a desert, barren wasteland, that the environment is actually healing and the world is better, but that ain't good for us, sort of thing. So that was another concept I wanted to run with. So whittling it down into a short film was was a big challenge. It was like, where do I even begin with that? So I found like this segment where like first contact with these, you know, they're kind of, in my mind, they're like the almost like they work for Area 51, super secret, you know, military weapons testing and stuff like that. And they're like deep underground that's kept them safe. And then there's the rest of the world where most people can't survive because they can't go to Tesco and do their weekly shopping anymore. So
Yeah.
most people die pretty quick. But there's a few resilient sods out there who manage to adapt to life in the jungle. Because the idea is this jungle grew like that. It's not I didn't have the budget to show it, but the idea was that this jungle quickly grew, like it's a mysterious growth. I tried to do a scene in the film where we show that happening in a lab. The VFX just didn't have the budget for it, you know,
Yeah.
so just couldn't get it in the movie. So once I sort of honed it all in, then it was just a case of, how do I go out and make this? Number one, assemble the team, and all the other people that I'd met along the way, but then there's still a lot of gaps.
Yeah.
So it was about filling those gaps, which was social media, basically.
Yeah. Oh, well, I remember you putting a post up and you weren't really asking for a cinematographer, but I know that you obviously had an Ursa Mini and you were shooting on that at the time. And I was just like, mate, I've got an extra camera if you need a hand. And you were like, I was just like, oh, it's just, off the cuff comment. And you actually was like, yeah. I was like, oh, sweet, man. So, thanks for that. I really appreciate being offered the opportunity to come along and help out, man. It was a good
I wanted you. I've been watching all your work that you post. And I was like, wow, everything was just getting better. But like, you got your camera. What I noticed is the second you got your Ursa Mini, and you started shooting with it, like the stuff that you were doing, and new posts, everything was just getting better and better and better. So when it came time to shooting, luckily I managed to get 2 loan cameras from Blackmagic, because we'd worked with them on the Beyond and stuff like that. So they were happy to loan us. And then I was like, wow, if you could come down, a 3rd camera, amazing.
Let's talk about the shooting actually, because there was Neil on it as well, wasn't you? You did a bit of shooting, I did a bit of shooting. So we were sort of trying to cover everything with 3 angles, weren't we? Like at once, because how many days did we do? Was it 2 in the end? It
was 2 days. I think the main reason for the 3 camera was purely for, it was 2 days, you know, in hindsight, it should have been 3 days.
Yeah.
It was 2 days and we could only get Puzzlewood Forest, which is a tourist attraction. We could either use it like in the spring, in the summer, where it looks absolutely amazing, like really green, lush, and all the green is hanging off the vines, and it's just an incredible place, but they won't close it to the public. So we could be filming and then some people walk up and be like, oh, stop. Because they said you can use it, but if someone's walking through, you have to stop filming and let them carry on their thing. So it's like, okay, that ain't ideal. Or wait till right at the end of the year where the days are getting short, where the days are getting so short that they start closing it to the public. It was like Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, Friday. So we could have the whole place to ourselves, but all the leaves have fallen down and it doesn't look as good. Doesn't look as good, but you've got a whole place to ourselves. So it's like, made the decision to have it not look as good, but have the whole place to ourselves. But another negative was the days are so short. Like it didn't get fully bright until like 9 o'clock, where we've got full daylight. And by sort of 3, it's already starting to dip. So our shooting days were so short. So it was a real challenge. So having the 3 cameras just meant coverage. You know, we could cover both sides of conversations and just move fast, basically. I mean, I prefer to shoot with 1 camera and keep it focused, but gosh, we just didn't have the time for that. So that was a real saved the day, really. Having
How did you find it like in post production afterwards? Because obviously we shot, was it a full fat raw? I think like the old cinema DNG.
Yeah, the B-roll hadn't come out yet. So
chewing through data quite quickly. Like, how was that to manage? Like afterwards, especially having.
You know what? In reality, what it meant was I just had to spend a bit of money to get a brand new 6 terabyte G-RAID, super fast. Dunk all of the rushes there. Obviously, another cheaper drive to back it all up. But do you know what? The reality was that once it's in Resolve, because I thought, do you know what? It makes sense to just do this in Resolve. So I edit using Premiere. I use Final Cut 10. I'm one of the rare few folks that actually loves Final Cut 10.
I do as well, mate.
I love it. But I thought, you know what, I'm going to give Resolve a try. And I love it. It's become my number one now. Now that I've done this film on Resolve, it's just like, damn, this program can do everything. Yeah. And it's so fast as well. So I just found that it took those DNGs, and then you just select all the rushes, optimize media, leave it overnight.
So it's that proxy, basically.
Basically, yeah. And then you're good to go. It's a bit of work because VFX shots come in. They're in EXRs, they're very heavy. You've got to optimize those. So it does create a bit of a heavy workflow. But once you've done all your optimization, it's fine. Didn't really notice it.
I was gonna say, because I like, even though I've had that camera, was it 3 years now, probably? I've never really used RAW on it, to be honest, because whenever we talk about it on projects, it's always like, you're probably going to need someone else on set managing the data. Because you just get through it so fast, and then it always ends up being, because like most of the time it's low budget, it's like, oh yeah, we'll just stick with ProRes and just like keep it simple. But I got to admit, like when I watched Satori like on my OLED, it was the best thing I've ever seen from that camera.
Oh wow,
it was incredible, mate. Honestly, like it did look really good. I think it was definitely it's definitely worth sort of the pain.
Yeah. Totally. So when it came to the colouring stage, the colorists, they're always happy that you've got full fat RAW and they've got the most room to play with. But I agree with you, to be honest, for most things, ProRes is fine. It's fine. I mean, you have to do really heavy colour grading, but I haven't used the new B-RAW yet. That seems to be the solution to it all, because the file size is a hell of a lot smaller.
Yeah, I haven't used it yet either. They haven't supported it on my camera, which is a bit sad.
Yeah, they mugged off the old camera, haven't they?
Yeah, they have, mate. Totally.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, let's not get into it.
I can see your pain, man.
Let's not get into it. I think they'll release a new one this year. I'll probably try and upgrade if they do.
Yeah, let's see.
Like, who knows, with all this COVID going on, like they might hold it back. You don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Because a lot of the companies have had problems with production and stuff in China and that, haven't they? So, but yeah. So on the day, like, how many people did you have working on the film? Because I remember as well, like walking around, it was like really, you had to really watch your step, didn't you? It is proper forest.
Yeah.
And it was slippy. Yeah. It was like quite moist, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, it was. My brother done a vlog that'll come out soon, so you see a bit.
Looking forward to that.
You bring back memories. We had a good laugh making it, so stay tuned for that one. But in all, it was, so we had the 3 cameras rolling. We had Adam Plowden as the first AD, which was great. Made sure it was all ticking along nicely, and he also done the gimbal shots on his Sony. John Sellins as the VFX supervisor. So that was like the core crew, really. And then we had wardrobe and makeup. And then outside of that, it was the actors and just other helping hands, really. So it was quite a bare bones crew, wasn't it, really? But due to the sort of speed that we had to shoot it all, no lights, all natural light.
Yeah.
We barely used, we didn't even really use reflectors or anything, did we?
No.
It was just all natural. So I was so happy how it came out. Bearing in mind, we didn't shape it at all. It was just like filming it like a documentary with nothing. So
the thing is, in like an overgrown dense forest, to like shape it, natural light is just going to be so difficult. You'd have to get massive like blacks put up, and it's just like, you wouldn't even make a difference if you just had like an 8x8 or something. You'd have to get it so close to the actor.
Do you know what I find?
Something manageable.
When I picture making the film, like in my head before the film, I wanted to like haze the place, bring in all these lights, and have all this look, and then no way. There's like no way we got time for any of that. you know, so there's the sort of dream you have in your head, which I guess that will come with money. But yeah, I really wanted that sort of low-laying fog and all of that. But hey, next time, I guess.
So what was sort of like the main challenges you sort of found on the days? You mentioned like the daylight thing, which is probably one.
Yeah, that was the single biggest challenge was the very limited amount of time. So what I found was happening was it's always a slow start on day one. I find. Do you find that, like, day one of a shoot, first setup, that thing where she's doing the CPR, and that just took so long, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
And then we got to the end of that.
On the floor, wasn't it? Your brother was like freezing on the floor. I remember him just shaking like this because he was so cold.
We got B-roll of him, and you can see him in the background, and he's just shivering, lying in a ditch of mud. And then we digitally took his face out in post, so he's not even in the film, poor guy. But yeah, the main challenge was the time. So this is what I found happened, James, is that I had all these ideas of like things that I wanted to do and shots, and it's like I wanted to sort of push in, and then as soon as you think of a shot like that, and it's like on a slider, different focus points, and then it's like you look at your watch and I ain't got time for any of that, so you just get a shot. So it gets to a point of just like there's how you want to film it, and there's just get something so you can tell the story. And then what I found is all of these sort of cool things that I wanted to do started vanishing. It's like, I can't do that. And then I looked at the watch. It was like there was a whole scene where these sort of coloured lights in the script started appearing. And then after the start of day one, I remember just standing there just like editing in my mind. It's like, right, take that whole scene out, because really the story can survive without that scene. And then things just start dropping. Then it just becomes the challenge of just get enough coverage to be able to tell the story, or this whole thing will be a waste, sort of thing. Because what I found is like I can try and, you know, hunker down and really get that cool shot, but the reality is I can't afford to bring these actors back. I can't afford to bring everyone back. It's not going to happen. So yeah, things start dropping, and then you just start prioritizing getting the scene done. So, but then that's where you just rely on the great actors, because I remember the scene where the guy had just been shot at with lightning, and they're down at the bottom of the ditch, and she's like, I told you, and stuff like that, and he covers her mouth. We done that in like one take, and the actors nailed it. We had the 3 cameras, one take, and then move on. And it's like you just sort of look at it and you think, it looked good, but you know, you never know until you watch it. Was that take good enough?
Because you were sort of shooting as well, weren't you? So it's I find it's probably quite difficult to sort of take everything in, because you're sort of trying to process so much at the same time, aren't you?
Yeah.
Sort of trying to process framing, focus, plus pay attention to what they're doing. It's very difficult, isn't it, to sort of keep you
good time. I think doing it again, you know, I should have had like a line producer, because I found myself on the day being like, yeah, the car park's over there, but the way you got to get in, you've got to drive around, and it's like I should be thinking about the film, not the logistics of getting all the crew in the place and stuff like that. So there was a bit too much in my head, so it became the scramble just to get the coverage. And then do you remember the end scene where they're like hiding, you know? And that was every time we went to do another shot, you could see the light.
Yeah, I remember now.
Darker. Yeah, it's darker and darker, to the point where the final shot of the film, where Lucy's at the top there, was so grainy. I had to do such a lot of denoise work on it, and it was like I just got the shots needed to tell the film. But you know, that was the biggest challenge. That was like doing that live editing was the what could go there. When they got shot at and the tree grows back, there was a whole sequence where they rolled down the hill and all of this and all of that. And in the end, what that became was a few shots before the lunch break of them running, and like 90% of the footage is unusable because it's like handheld and out of focus. And then you get into the edit and it's just like, I don't know what I'm going to do here. But, you know, that was a challenge of post, I guess.
I remember you used a technique on the film, didn't you, where you create like a preset and it was sort of like doing some off-speed stuff, but conforming it to, and it give it sort of that like jagged emotion type feel.
Oh yeah,
You remember?
yeah.
And I've tried to like do it afterwards, and I can't remember what you did now. It's something like you set it to 23 frames, but then play it back at 25 or something like that. I can't remember.
It was
exactly.
a very subtle thing. I think it was.
Or you changed the shutter up as well as that, or something.
Yeah.
I can't remember now. I was going to
It
say
was the frame rate slightly off and the shutter angle slightly off. I've got it written down somewhere. I think it's like shutter angle.
It's quite a cool effect there.
45, and I think frame rate just a bit faster, a bit slower. I can't remember. And it was just for the action. It just gives a very slight. I read it in American Cinematographer, and I'd done some tests at home with like, you know, throw a bit of earth and debris in front of the camera and see how it looks, and wanted to try it, but totally forgot about that, and it worked pretty well. I'll dig that out, James.
Yeah, I think it's something like, I'm sure it's something like you sort of record at 21 frames a second or something like that, and then you set it to play it back at 24 or 25 or whatever we ended up shooting at.
Yeah.
But it's quite a cool effect. Quite like that. Sort of Saving Private Ryan gives it that sort of stuttery type thing.
Yeah, it's like that, but not as much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a subtle version of that.
Yeah. So we sort of filmed this, was it 3 years ago?
It was December 2017. So it's basically in post for 2 years.
Yeah. So what was the sort of challenges like in post? Like, you know, obviously there's quite heavy VFX stuff, and sort of, I guess people are sort of, you call in favors sometimes and things like that. And, you know, but what were the challenges? How come it took so long without it being a dig?
No, not at all. I mean, you know, it's quite interesting, you know, the challenges I had in post. It was just a string of things. Mainly it was lack of money. So when you ain't got money, it just takes time instead on the VFX side. But what happened, James, we shot the film, edited together, and just wasn't working. So there wasn't enough setup at the beginning. Like, you didn't really know what the status quo was, like who's in charge, who's who, who's she, who's he.
Was this something that you'd planned to do but didn't have time, or was it just something that you sort of felt like hindsight you wanted?
It was originally in the script, and then I thought that it was something that I could cut, and maybe it could go in the opening text. And then the film evolved so much in post. You know, it was going to start with everyone being watched on webcams, and then, like, you know, you see all this sort of tracking markers. You get this feeling of someone's something is watching us. It was the whole AI thing, and it wasn't working. And then so I decided to do the additional shoot of the when they're in the ship before they crash. So we shot that. So that added a bit more time. Sort of re-edited the film, and then it's not working. And then because of the limitations of the shoot, there was just missing. I've got stuff missing. I haven't got a shot of the creature here. And then we're trying to. So what we ended up doing in post was making shots out of nothing. We're using visual effects. So in the final film, there were a lot of shots which were like from recce's, where I just took like the old Blackmagic 4K, and I just got some test footage where we put in there, like the bit where she puts her hands up, and then you just see it over, you know, it's just emerging from the ground with the lightning. That was just like some recce footage that, you know, it's like, really need to, she puts her hands up, and then there's nothing there because we didn't have time to shoot anything on the day. So then, but stuff like this, that's a new VFX shot. And then, you know, that's a new VFX shot. So it was like, I think there was a lot of story, and we just didn't film enough. So it was just trying to fill gaps with these visual effects shots and stuff like that. So this whole time, the number of shots are racking up. And there's shots that are not obvious where we've got to remove the puzzlewood path, got to remove the handrails, because that was a challenge to frame out all of that. But there's one guy doing VFX, and if he becomes busy, working VFX is crazy. You're getting home late at night.
Yeah.
If he becomes busy or goes to another country on a job, the whole thing shuts down, and you just, there's not any editing, there's not really much work you can do. You just need those VFX shots to come in. So it was just patiently waiting, and then what happened is we got the final push at the end. Was John had an empty month in between contracts on from one VFX house to the next, so he brought his whole computer setup to my place, and we just had our computers side by side, and we just spent I think a few weekends where we just absolutely hammer it out, because doing stuff over email, sending these huge EXR files, taking a day to download them, to realise the shot ain't quite right, and all the rest of it just took a while. But once he was sat next to me, that was it. We just smashed it, finished it. But so I'd say it was a mixture of sort of trying to make the film work because it wasn't working, and then it was just the wait time of one guy having to work through all these VFX shots.
Yeah.
So they were the main challenges.
He did do an amazing job, to be fair, on them.
He done a great job.
It's sort of I can't believe what people can do, to be honest.
Yeah.
Look at the stuff, I'm like, oh my God.
I know. It's mental. Do you know what I learned as well making this film is what is hard and what is easy with VFX. Sometimes you're like, could you no, there was a shot, James, at the end where she goes like that, and we've done it in one take. She's not in focus, but for 2 frames she is in focus. And I was like, is there anything you could do with that? And he somehow took the 2 frames and made most of the shot in focus. I was like, damn, how the hell did you do that? And so there was things that I thought would be easy, and they took ages. So it's all a learning process, really. But I do feel that after doing this film, that I've got a much better understanding of VFX, of what's really difficult, what's really easy. We tried to do the plant growing in the lab to show how this all began. It would turn out to be the most complex. The vines growing, they all sort of cross over each other. Then the leaves have to grow, and it's
I can imagine that's probably one of the most complex things to do, is it not?
Yeah, so simulation and So it just was look, we haven't got Hollywood money on this, so that gets deleted. But then that affects. Okay, well, that was supposed to be the beginning of the movie. If I can't open this film with the growth, because it was going to start growing in a lab, and then it's sort of growing up the sides of the cabinet and on the glass. And then bang, it cuts to the jungle where the buildings. So I was like, lab to that kind of says it all without having to explain too much. But then you realise the VFX, we've got limitations, and have to figure other things out. So now we've got Planet Earth, it's a new visual effects shot. And
that's cool there. That was cool.
Yeah.
I quite liked the sort of airborne stuff. Was that just sort of totally made from scratch, or did you have a drone? Did you take a drone over Puzzlewood or anything?
No, yeah, so that was again going back to Haz. That was learning from him. Just bought a stock footage shot of flying over a jungle, but it didn't have a horizon line, so it had to be heavily manipulated in post. We had to remove the mountains, and then there's all the parallax because of the movement. We tried to put buildings in the foreground.
Yeah.
But because of the parallax of the things moving up, it was so difficult to track and have a building look like it's really there. So what we've done is we put all the buildings in the background, which I think actually looks better in the end. But, this is all the sort of learning process we went through. I went through. That was... And the other aerial shots were recce footage again, where I've just gone and I've just gone like that, and I'm just filming around to film the environment when I've gone down to Puzzlewood on a recce. Then I'm just going back to old footage and let's put the ship flying overhead. So it was a real scramble using anything. So I've got iPhone footage in there. So when they look on the screen and they like, he plays the video, it's like that. I was on holiday and I was in a cable car and I just filmed with my phone going over the forest.
Did you do it like with that in mind, that you could potentially use it, or was it just like something that you'd filmed?
Do you know what? At that point when I was on that holiday, it wasn't Satori. I hadn't even sort of planning to make the film.
Yeah.
But I just had that loose kind of like idea in my head about this jungle world.
Yeah.
But so I was just filming stuff, knowing that I'll probably, while I'm here, just get some jungle footage.
Yeah, even if it's for like just ideas or like things.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's like on an iPhone 5.
Yeah.
Proper crappy. So you've got proper crappy old iPhone footage next to 4.6K RAW.
Yeah.
And I use that same shot again in the film as like an establishing shot where we're just overhead in the jungle. And when you put this on a big screen, gosh, I don't know if people notice it, but I was like, yeah, iPhone.
You probably can, yeah. That's the thing though, isn't it? Like when there's stuff like that there, you always see it. Whereas a lot of the time when it's mixed in, you don't really, like, it's not something I looked at and thought, oh, you can tell that's not shot on.
Yeah, exactly. That goes back to the thing where I was saying about, meeting a lot of people who insisted, don't make anything unless it's shot on Alexa and stuff like that. It's like, it don't matter. It's like, if it's a good story, people should be into it. I found that John Sellins had this little reference VFX. It just filmed little MP4 files.
Yeah.
But he got some really nice jungle shots, and they're low bitrate MP4 420 crappy stuff. But they're like some of my favourite shots of the jungle, because he was just sort of getting reference images, and it's all gone into the film, and it all just blends in, hopefully, seamlessly. And no one's really noticed yet.
I think it's amazing, mate, what you've achieved, to be honest.
Thank you.
And I think it was worth the 2-year wait.
I'll tell you what, James, smaller one next time. No, either money or no VFX.
But I mean, like, honestly, like when I was there, and like, you read the scripts and everything, and like you sort of can't really picture exactly what it's going to be like, and then you see, like, when you watch it back, and you've got all these things growing out of the ground and these crazy guns and stuff. Like, let's talk about the while I'm onto it, let's talk about those props that were made, because they were pretty incredible as well.
Yeah.
But sorry, mate, just don't let me forget about that. But yeah, it was just like, incredible, like when you see it all come together. So well done to everyone and the team, and to you as well, especially. And thanks for letting me be involved in it. It's like, it's one of those projects where I genuinely feel like it makes you feel proud to do the job you do, you know what I mean? Or like, and it just, and as well, you just feel grateful that you do such a cool job. Really.
I know, for work, you've got to shoot all these interviews and stuff like that. And it's just, I just want to film, sci-fi action, really.
I love it, whatever I do. Like, I loved my job that I did yesterday, which was pretty straightforward stuff, but,
True. I mean, whenever I film an interview, I always think, right, he's going to be the best talking head lighting setup anyone's ever seen. Whatever you film, I always get excited when I film. I just make it the best no matter what it is.
It's like when you do something like Satori, though, it's like it's a lot greater than the sum of its parts. Do you know what I mean? It's like it becomes something else. It becomes its own thing. It's like when people talk about like cars or whatever, and they're made up of all these parts, but it's that feeling you get, or like that, it's something that you can't explain or you can't really describe. You can describe it, but you know what I mean? It's like it's got its own like life.
Yeah, thanks, man. Because what essentially what you're saying there is what I discovered in the process, is that as you're making it and you've written a script and you're now kind of trying to pitch it to people and explain it to people, even in the edit, when it's starting to come together, no one knows what's in your head. Even though you can explain it until you're blue in the face and get reference images.
I remember questioning you about the script, because when I first read it, there was bits of it I didn't understand. And I think even now you explain it to me again since I've watched it, I'm like, oh yeah, I can actually really see that now. Whereas I didn't necessarily take that away from it.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Sorry.
Yeah, totally. So I think all you can do is do your best, explain as best as you can. I found that as many images and like video clips and as much to sort of visualize it in the collaborator's mind, just get it as near as you can. And what I find is some people really like, I know exactly what you're getting at here. Some people don't get it as much, so you just gotta make sure that it all gets as close to the vision as possible, you know. And yeah, that's another thing I learned from Haz was the importance of not just mood boards, but like really pushing those mood boards. Like he's great at Photoshop and putting stuff together. He'll create a trailer for a film that doesn't exist with clips from TV commercials, games commercials, movies, and it's like, damn, it feels like the film's already been made. But when he's showing that to you and then he gives you a little explanation, you're like, I know exactly what you're getting. I know exactly the film that you're trying to make. And that's all, that's not my strong point, all of that. So it's a real struggle for me. But I've learned the value of really trying to push that and get better at all of that. But comping images together and stuff, it's, man, some of my attempts are shocking. They're shocking, but you just got to try.
So yeah, congratulations anyway. What's sort of like what's your next project? Have you got anything in mind at the minute?
Well, I guess, yeah, it's just been a great relief to finally get the film out now. So I guess for the here and now, it's just sort of pushing it still, pushing the film out there still. It's great hearing feedback. It makes me, I've, you know, obviously got ideas for this as a bigger movie, but returning to that now that the film's out in the world is going to be interesting. I've had interest in this being a feature, so I'm going to develop that. While I'm doing that, I'm really excited now to go straight into something else, which can be done quickly. No 2-year post-production. Really excited to go straight into that. So the focus won't be on huge world building and loads of visual effects. I will just sort of, I feel like I kind of done that now. I want to do something smaller and show other skills, other, you know, other areas of storytelling. And I'd like to collaborate with more people, because what I found making this is that I have to write it because no one's going to write it for me, but I'd love to work with a writer. I edited it because I had to edit it because no one's going to edit it for me, but I'd love to work with an editor. So I'm hoping that making this film and being able to show it to people will help me in trying to sort of draft people in. So I love working in a team. I'd love to work with you again. I'd love to work with all these other people and it to be more, I don't like the in a room on my computer all by myself. That's, I don't feel where the best comes out. I feel when you get all the different points of view and collaborating with as many people as possible, I feel that the thing that you're trying to make just becomes better and better. So moving forward, that's a goal of mine is to open up to, not even open up. It's just, no one's interested, James, when you're trying to do something. It's just, but hopefully this first project can encourage people to want to collaborate, because that's what I love. I love working with people.
I think I always find is, like you say, no one's interested. And I think, to a certain degree that's true. But I think if you find the right people who, are in the same sort of situation as yourself and, you want to push towards a certain thing, it's hard to do, but you can always find people who are willing to, put themselves out there and sort of try and make something for themselves or of themselves. Like I'm always striving to, do better things, do better work with new people. I think a lot of the time when people aren't interested, they've either got a chip on their shoulder about being wanting to be paid so much money all the time, and I'll only get out of bed for this much or whatever. And like, I hate that about, I don't blame them in a way, but like, I hate that about this industry. It's a creative industry, and like, we're all trying to make things and, impress ourselves as well as like entertain people with what we make.
You know what? I'll take that back. No one's interested, because with making Satori, I had loads of people who were very interested and very invested. It's just there are some roles that I found that I couldn't recruit in, but I had people like 222 Music who I met at like a networking event.
Yeah.
When Satori was just like a loose idea, and they have just totally been by my side all the way until the launch. So that was, for me, it was like a dream collaboration. And I think obviously like John Sellin's doing all the VFX, doing a lot of work to bring the film to life. But when you make a film, there are so many roles, and I got lucky where I could fill some of these key roles with people who are really passionate about the project as well. But it would just be nice to.
I know what you mean, though. Like, when
have more collaborators,
Yeah, I know what you mean, though, and like what you said, because I think there are a lot of people who, like, I don't know, I was guilty of it a long time ago. You just like, you think, oh, it's, if I'm not going to get, paid my full day rate, I'm not interested. You know what I mean? It's like, but a lot of the time, they're the sort of people who just want to do their job and go home, and that's it, and that's fine. But like, like when you want to move up and you want to sort of like start challenging yourself, I think, and get involved with creative projects, then you will. It's hard to find. You'll get a lot of rejections, and I think that's probably why you said what you said. Because like I've found that before, but I think you ended up meeting some good people. I think.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, that's been the gift of the production, was the people that I'd met, like you, from before, and then the new people that I'd met through like the recruiting, I guess, which were awesome, and I can't wait to work with again. I guess the thing that I want to do moving forward is those key roles that you think, I can just do that myself.
Yeah.
But the truth is, could really do with some help in those areas. I wrote because I enjoyed the writing part, but gosh, my dialogue's terrible. And just check out the YouTube comments to get confirmation of that. But that's no surprise to me. I know that. So I'd love to work with another writer, whereas I couldn't on this. And
even if it's just
really like to work with an editor,
isn't it?
Huh?
Even if it's just like redrafting your original script, or like getting ideas from them on how you might be able to improve it or whatever.
Yeah, totally. Just to sort of have a bit of backwards and forwards and have another point of view on the script would definitely be something that I'd love to have moving forward. These are the things that I'm going to seek out moving forward. These are the sort of roles that are empty that I'd really want to fill in future projects, because for me that's the best part. And those two areas as well, James, are the lonely parts. Sitting there writing, sitting there editing. Out in the jungle filming, I love it. Sitting in the room by yourself, for me personally, is the hardest thing to do, to write, to edit. Struggled with writing, struggled with editing, and basically, I'd love to have collaborators in those areas moving forward.
Cool, man. Right, I think that's about an hour, so I think it's a good time to. Oh, that's crazy, isn't it?
Thanks for having me, James. I appreciate it.
Anything else you want to say before you go? Just
a massive thank you to all the people that were involved. Thank you to you. Thank you to everyone who's involved. It's been a great honour and a privilege to work with people who are so good at what they do, and I'm excited to work with you all again and collaborate with new people as well.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thanks for having me on it. It's definitely something that I'm proud of, and I'm looking forward to sharing a bit more in the coming weeks.
Brilliant.
So thanks very much for having me on it. And
thank you.
Thanks for joining me on the podcast, the first Zoom one. Hopefully I can do a few more of these going forward.
Yeah, hopefully I could join you in the flesh next time.
Yeah, man, that'd be good. Right, I'm going to sign out here, and I'll see you all in a couple of weeks, hopefully for another Zoom episode. Thank you, Adam.
Brilliant. Appreciate it.
Cheers, man. Take care.
Cheers, brother.